this moment.
Bom dia, good morning for everyone. This is the Innovation for the Future Crowd Circle. And today, Rob is the space holder. Rob, I pass to you.
Thank you, Marco. Yes, welcome everyone. And yeah, welcome to this moment. Invitation today is to enter into a council of some kind with some idea that we will ask a question or two. And our invitation is to respond from our personal experience and tell story. And then from this story, we may listen in between these stories or in parts of these stories and see what stays with us as a response to a question that's asked. It's an interesting way for bypassing, let's say, the rational and that part of the mind that is searching for meaning. And it's more to allow the engagement of our personal experience to come forward and allow the meaning, whatever meaning comes, of its own accord. So it's a different way to engage our way to learn, listen, and look at what our collective intelligence might bring. So we are filled, I'm sure, with thousands of stories. Any of us could ask a question and we would just use the answer that would come. And it's kind of similar. So we put ourselves in a more meditative frame in the council way. We enter a ceremony. We invite a larger story than ourselves by doing that. And the story that wants to come will come, and we might question it. Well, that doesn't make any sense. But to put that aside and allow that story to come, and we listen into that and take what we can, what we see, what we hear in it for our council, and that is our gift for today. So I invite us just to close our eyes if it feels good, or just to drop into a kind of meditational space, feeling the body settling. Allowing the breath to open into the body, into all the channels, to allow the blood to carry it around every part of us. Become aware of the magnificent creation that we occupy. We call a body, a heart, lungs, organs. And to allow that mind, whatever mind we have, whatever emotions, feelings, to settle, held within that vessel. And to open a space for the listening, the sharing, and for the joy of our meeting together. I'd like to open the council with this gentle sound of the bells. Welcome us in. So I'd love to start with the check-in. How we are, where we are, something that just comes that we need to say to be present. I have a little natural object here that I can just hold as a reference for a talking piece. I feel good, I'm excited to be here right now. I'm feeling a lot of flow where I am in my life just now in this last few weeks. Coming out of Portugal is a good thing. I'm back here in the UK, which is more of my natural environment as a social being. I know the language, I know the culture. I have many, many friends here from, of course, since I was a child. And there seems to be a flow, and I'm very grateful for that. And the flow seems to have lasted for some time, which is always welcome. It's not just a few days. So I feel good. I'm happy to be here. And I'd like to pass the talking piece to Thierry.
Thank you. This week I came back from 3 weeks Holland, and I'm happy to be back here. I feel still a bit tired. This was basically what stayed with me the whole time when I was in Holland. You know, just looking like this, and I was happy to see my family, but it just in all sense it's very intense to be there, and I don't really feel kind of a flow forward yet, which is in a way good because I moved house and just getting settled in another place here. And yeah, to summarize it, I'm really happy to be with all of you, because that's where my passion is, to see what's emerging in us and make it happen this year. So thank you. And I pass on to Barbara.
Well, I can show you my talking piece that I just finished to make it. For a while, this is something that is in my doorway, and sometimes I carry it to council. And this week or last week, I don't remember really, I start to taking care of this piece. And I don't know, it came that I really start to put it together because they are different pieces. Just this morning. And then I remember that I will be here in council. So that's my checking in and saying that I'm really happy to be here. And I also feel this kind of flow in my life and in myself. And I pass it to Marco.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you all. I arrive with sadness. I'm feeling sad because my children, I have been with 2 weeks with them, and they will pass to mother today. Go with mother. And I'm sitting with that. I'm also noticing sadness because some of the people that want to be in this circle didn't have the, I say, the time doesn't work for them. That makes me sad. I'm noticing that is a pattern also in other circles. I have this fear really call me to be present here, and what will happen, how this will unfold. And I'm also seeing my joy in being in this constellation, see you have this time to reflect about the question and the calling for being in this council. It's really precious to me, and in a way it already started. I have the sensation that during this night the the council was happening inside me, during my dreams. And I noticed that my anger is to try to find really a different time and different schedule for the circle, and for this to happen with more people, and that people that want to come are able to come. That's me. That's me, Ryan. Thank you.
So I just put the talk piece in the middle if someone just wants to add something from what we've heard. I suppose what I felt something when Marco was speaking about passing his children to his partner, or to the other significant. Yes, how that for me sits with me as a kind of, it's like this often, this story I hear of the passing of the children back and forth. Yeah, it brings questions into me, not bad questions, more it's a kind of community of an extended, in an extended way. I can't really explain it. I don't, but I felt something about it.
I also felt something when I was listening to Marco's story, and it was on the pain and finding the right time to accommodate everybody. And it just reminded me of something I was just contemplating on since yesterday. I was reading a bit in a book, and it was about the shift from ego to eco. But so basically, from a mindset of controlling nature to being in some way part of nature. And there were like 5 different mindsets that they described from one extreme to the other. And then I was just wondering, okay, also with facilitating and holding space for circle, there's something similar going on. You know, I often struggled myself when I was trying to facilitate it, because somehow, I don't know, maybe I'm not a really good facilitator. So I ended up always in some kind of struggle, power struggle with other people. But in the end, on the deepest level, there you could also say, okay, there's only God or the divine facilitating. So it's all a miracle, and I don't know the answer, what it means for this circle, but somehow I have the feeling it's important. And I found this talking piece back to the circle.
I take the talking piece. The story that is coming out is the story of the beavers when they build that structures in the river, and there is a dance between building that structure that in a way is a thing that breaks the flow of the river and the flow of the river. And it's very beautiful to see how that construction is made, and is made in the flow of the river, with the flow of the river. And that is the story that is coming out. And this story questioned me about my action in my life. Like I'm seeing that this mother-father thing with the children is an anchor for me for what I want to do. I live near the school. This kind of stuff. It's like an anchor, and I'm seeing that there is this activation in myself to go for a different community, to live more near the nature, go outside the city, and at the same time this restriction of being near the kids being near the mother, and this kind of constellation thing. And I'm noticing that that is happening around me and around other people, around people that we connect, like Gilles and others that have the same fractal thing. This, and I'm looking inside myself for possibilities of this reconciliation, because this thing is there. It's this activation in myself, and this restriction is there, and I don't want to move them in any way. But how can I use them both to really create something that embrace the system, embrace the constellation, and fulfill the different parts? That is the question that I'm sitting on in my personal life. And this story of the beaver really called me for that, for going with the flow and really tuning with the flow of the river, at the same time with the urge of building a home and created that structure for the living. And in a way, it's also a story that calls me around the circle and the innovations. And yeah, I can find in myself moments when there was more this movement of something is not working, and I'm withdrawing myself from the space, and moments where I really go with the flow and with what was happening. And experimenting with not having a center, and not having a hierarchy, not having and really calling people to circle and see what can emerge from there, in a way that the people feel empowered by being in the circle, because there is this shadow side that I'm noticing, and I'm noticing also here in innovations, that being in a circle is also a way of me not taking responsibility, of hiding myself in the circle in a collective thing. And I'm sitting with that also, with that question, and with that experimenting, and how to communicate, how to bring the information to people and put the information open, and harvesting what is happening and spreading what is happening, harvesting what I'm living and I'm seeing, and at the same time put that available for others to consider that also. And that story is calling me. In a way, that story is calling me to dance between the flow and the constructs around that flow, that really respect the flow. And I put the talking piece in the middle. Thank you. Rob, I think you are, yes.
That's it, classic.
Thank you.
yes, sensing a segue into the questions that we might start to approach. Well, they're already here. Put them into a clarity. There was an exchange between Marco and I where some questions were coming up. And the invitation is that we approach these questions as prompts. So the questions I have were, what needs to be here for our interdependence? What is invisible and connects us? What is the glue of our community, of our movement, of innovations for the future? And so that's a lot of consideration. And the way I would invite us to approach this right now is to transform the question into a prompt, meaning something which brings a story. So I would put it like this, and then put the talking piece in the middle, and we see what wants to emerge. Tell a story of a moment where interdependence became visible or became a focus. Tell a story where interdependence became visible or a focus. It doesn't need to be framed with a backstory. It's just to tell the story of that moment.
There's something coming up for me, and it was about, I think about 10 years ago, with one of my business partners. We went to some kind of camp where like social innovators would do all kind of workshops, building tree houses and doing all kind of funny things. And then after the Saturday night, we had a little bit to drink, but not so much. Sunday morning we drove back home with my car. I had a gray Citroën, and then on the entrance to the main road, it was just still in the forest. A horse ran into my car, and it just smashed two windows on where my business partner was sitting. Totally smashed it. There was a huge hole in it. The lady or girl who was just driving the horse, flew over the car. Luckily, she was not seriously hurt, but she was of course in shock. The horse had like bleeding from its nose, and I heard later on that the horse was kind of injured, and it means that somehow it needed to be killed. And then at the end of the story, of course, my car was seriously damaged. We first went to the house of my friend, and he had been managing the local association for small business holders. So he knew everybody there, and he found one guy who was doing a second-hand car, and we found some cheap windows, like just at where they bring the cars that are not basically falling apart. There's still a lot of good ingredients. So I stayed at his house for a few days. He's one of these guys. He had 4 daughters, and at that stage, I think they were all still living in the house. But when an honored friend comes, just one of the girls just moves to another room with with one of her sisters, and I could just stay there. You know, there was just really kind of a feeling of interdependence and also of kind of community. I mean, I never forget it, and we still have good connections together. So basically, car was repaired. Still, of course, like a hole in it, but 2 new windows, and after 3 days, I could go again. So that was the story of the horse and the car.
I take talking piece. Thank you, Thierry, for your story. And what popped up in me, the story was when I divorced 2 years and something ago, and some months ago, we decided that the children stay at the same home, and me and mother change in each week. They stay in the same place and we go in and out. And the mother has a second house for doing that, but I didn't have a second house, and that put me a question: where I will go in that week. And sadly, in the first time, a friend invited me to go, and I went to his home and stayed there. And being in there allowed me to connect with the community around, with the projects around, and sit in circle and eat meals together and something like that. And I start sharing that in my check-ins and in my meetings and in that stuff. And people start inviting me to go in each week to go each place. And during 1 year, I did that. 1 week with my children in the home where they born, and the other week just around the country, visiting friends and people and meeting projects and staying in circle with people. And yeah, that was the, in a way, was the really the beginning of the innovations for the future. Like me during 1 year going around the country, staying 1 week in each house, staying in circle and eating and working and doing the work in the gardener, doing all the stuff that happened around that here, that beautiful here. And that's it. That my story that brings me interdependence in the middle of the thing, and in a way that really nurture me and support me in that here. And in another way that allow me to really connect with people and the places and the projects. Some of them I only met from Zoom or a phone call or whatever. And a lot of them was the first time, like in Tomar, I met a huge community around, and most of the people was the first time. And also that happened in Idania and other places. And yes, there was a need on the bottom, like my need. And that is what was visible in the iceberg. And there was a lot of needs and urges and impulses that was on that button in me and in the system. Like I noticed that I did several roles in that. I was like the guy that goes playing and singing and bringing the news for all the places, like the butterfly, and also like a resource, like a weaver, like a priest. I did so many roles during that year in the places, and I had this beautiful image of people coming together for the first time because I was there, because I was the one that was new in that context. And in a way, people want to come to circle to meet me and to talk and to have a meal. And I say, wow, this is amazing. I need to do nothing, just to be there. And, yeah, that really tapped me in what is invisible in this thing. That was visible, my need, but there was so many things invisible in myself, in being together, in living the togetherness, living the love, living the discovery, and also seeing that in a way that was also there, that needs and that impulses also in the places where I was. And that's me. Thank you. I put in the middle.
So I remember when I was young, my father and mother, they separate, and I don't know, I don't remember the starting point, but I just remember this, that I was always, well, I need to move like your child. I need to move from one house to another one. And at the same time, my father moves to live with somebody else, and with a lot of children too. Not a lot, just 3. And I remember this, that I just follow my brother, because he moves around. Sometimes he's in my father's house, and then something went wrong and he goes to my mother's house. And I change again, also like him. I go there to meet him, something like this. But then he moves again. So I dance this dance, and now I was feeling this in this morning, that now that I'm leaving, I'm feeling much more in flow, because I'm connecting the dots. The movement I do now is put things together. Meaning, for example, I'm here in the living room, and if somebody came, my family, it's okay, I'm here in the circle. Things are together. I don't need to separate no more. So I know this is my movement now, and I'm so happy with it, really. And I'm also opening the doors, of my house. It's a beautiful movement, really. I opened the house to meet with friends, and I feel so joyful. And people that come, they also feel that. And these last days or holidays time, it was just this, parties and being together with family, with friends, very simple. And I also could bring myself and I could bring counsel to my family, my bigger family. So things are, like, yeah, coming together. And I feel joy. I put it in the middle.
I feel quite moved by these stories. Very lot of stories within the stories. The story I was going to tell is still kind of here, but I'm also with sort of this feeling of grief around moving. I open my mouth and see what comes. It seems that the original story is still here. My first awareness of this word came when I was traveling to America to have a training, to receive a training in being a vision fast guide, which meant staying in the desert for a month. And I could afford the flight and I could afford a gift to the teachers, but I was struggling a little bit with how to support myself with the food and those kind of things. I'm not sure where I got the idea, but somehow the idea arrived that I should or could ask. It was my mentor, yes. She suggested, why don't you ask your people? Which is what I do when I offer trainings. If people can't afford, I first ask if they would invite their connections, their friends, their family to support them, so that the benefit in fact comes back to them and increases the circle. But when it came to me actually doing that, there was a massive resistance in me. I met the resistance in me that, I cannot support myself. I have to ask people for money. I'm obviously useless. I'm not functioning well in the world because I have to ask for this. I have to ask for money. And it brought up all that stuff. And what came into focus was this feeling, I've set myself up for a very long time in my life to be independent. To be independent. My mother, would sometimes say that I never asked for anything. I needed very little hugs or this kind of thing. So something of a very strong independence sits within me. And I loved the idea of interdependence because it's what I believe, what I love, what I want to see in the world. And yet to meet it in myself, to ask for help, to ask for support, that was the biggest challenge I remember. And I had 2 months to do it, and I could not do it until 9 days before the event. People supported me when I asked. That's where the grief is. I really feel it now. That I want to feel that I have a place that I can invite people into, that I can support others with, because they've been so generous to me. Thank you. Just as a facilitator and being aware of the time, since we are rather only having 15 more minutes, I would move the session a little bit faster than I would like to, or even would consider in a normal council. I'd ask us to see what remains, if there's something really burning that we would want to say in hearing these stories, but also to listen into what stays with us. So just to offer another round of briefly sharing what stays with us from these stories, and then I will invite us into a deeper listening.
what stayed with me from the stories I heard from, I think all of you, is that the support from your family and community, and also the connection with it. And especially when Rob was sharing a story, I felt also the pain in me with my family. Interestingly enough, my brother lived in Cascais in the 1990s. He was working for environmental research institute. He got really disappointed and he moved mainstream. And when I was just doing this kind of more social and environmental innovation, you know, I should just go back to a serious job, and that pain is still there. And somehow, what I feel right now, it's me to change the story and also the dialogue to make it more inclusive. So that was what's coming up for me. And I give back to the circle.
My take. What is getting alive in me, what I'm noticing is that there is something with the urge, a real necessity coming in front, and the movement that real necessity creates around something. And I noticed that in all the stories. It was a real necessity for each one of us, and that created a movement around that, like people coming and supporting, and from there something new was created. And that was very interesting to notice that from my perspective, and it really touched me to see that, to see there is also this element of when I, in my case, accept my vulnerability and embrace that as an opportunity, as a way of opening myself, magic happened. Something completely different from where was my habit or my past or whatever really unfold in front of me. And that creates a sense of belonging and connection in myself. And I noticed that in the several stories also. Yeah, that was what is staying alive in me after listening to the stories, and I put in the center. Thank you.
What stays with me is the horse. How the animal kingdom bumps into something. And the consequence of that story is that the animal passes. That's what stays with me. I'm not attaching meaning to it now, but that's a very strong image.
stays with me is the movement, not something fixed. We follow the purpose, something like this. It's like the first step, and then things comes together. Sometimes not very conscious as the first step, but then seems that things come together after this first step. Something very alive. Yeah. Bring back to the center.
So I take the talking piece and it'll just stay with me for a little bit while I ask or invite us in a popcorn style, so we don't need to use the talking piece, each of us. Taking only what we heard in the stories as a point of reference, as not a point of reference, as our information, let's say. What did we learn about what needs to be here for our interdependence? So that was the original question, one of the original questions. What needs to be here for our interdependence? And just from the stories we've heard, not from any other story or from any other thing that comes, what in these stories did we learn about interdependence? What needs to be here for our interdependence? So anything that just wants to come, popcorn. We're kind of moving into it already, but it's an extra layer of sieving.
Yeah, for me, the real necessity that is real for the ones.
Could you repeat the last few words, Marco? The real necessity for the
ones, for the people, for each one of us.
Uh-huh.
In my case, for myself.
For me, it's to take care for the animals. To understand that we may be going in different directions, and to somehow or other to take that into account. And that went across in some ways many of the stories.
For me, the word trust comes up very strongly, that there needs to be trust, and it's not always there.
The word is unfold.
We have very few minutes. We just invite us maybe a couple more minutes just to see what else emerges, and then move towards a closure. I read what I've made note of what's been said. A real necessity for the people, for each of us, for ourselves, taking care of the different directions, trust, which is not always there, and an unfolding.
There is also something like the openness for the discovery, the openness for the new, the openness for what was not there, like this thing at the same time dealing with fear and the openness for doing that, for going through the new, for what was not there. And yeah.
The common, for me, a common theme in the stories was separation of some kind. Before something could come together in a more harmonious way, there was a separation. One more, two more, then we have to close.
Well, for me, after listening to you, the word wisdom comes up in these stories. Sooner or later, there's some wisdom arising, even if it's just the wisdom of the moment.
And also the vulnerability to make that space to be open and letting go.
Thank you. We are exactly on 10:30, and I would invite us to 3 to 5 words as a closure for this council. I will ring the bell, and then we complete. I hope that this session has been of some value, and we might see that perhaps in longer times or periods, we may continue with the work of listening and story to really get into what actually really matters. That was my exit. I hand to Thierry.
Thank you. What comes up in me is that I feel it's creating more of a holding space, what we've been doing. And I still see this kind of urgency to jump into something practical, but I think it's good to just slow down, stay with it. And just create this holding space, because that's what creates a beautiful garden, invites the birds and the rabbits. Thank you.
Will you hand it to someone, Thierry?
Sorry, handing it to Marco.
Thank you. I feel joy because to give time to this exploration and to really tap in the mystery of the interdependence in myself and see how how that movement inside me also creates something outside me that was very precious to me. And I'm feeling fear because of the time, and anger because I want more to be more, and I'm noticing that inside myself, and I want to use that to make an invitation for people that are listening. Please, after listening that, if you feel an impulse to record a story or your wisdom about this, do that and share it with us in the group, or send to me and I share in the group. And also to invite you, Rob, if you can send me the notes, these last ones, and I put in the recording, also in the description of the recording for people. That will be great. Thank you. And it's me using my joy and fear and anger to really continue the space in a way, to really expand the space for all the others that are listening us. Thank you. It was really precious, and I want to appreciate and celebrate the gift that you brought to the space. Rob, thank you for that. And I pass to Barbara.
Well, I feel a lot of joy. For a while, I have the intention to come to these circles. But then it was not the time for me. But I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the process. That's what stays with me. And then I know that more clarity and more things come to me after this collective space. And thank you.
For being present. Thank you for the listening, for the presence, and for this moment.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a nice Friday and weekend. Até já.
Até já.
Até já.
Yeah.